Good morning to Madam Hanu. Today, my group and I will be presenting on the Self-Assessment System or SAS. Before we begin, let me introduce our group members, Siti Naszirah, Farah Aleeya, Fatin Zulaikha, and Farzana. We will be covering key aspects of the SAS. Let's start with an overview of tax estimate. Companies need to submit the ACC3623 form before the tax year begins. For established companies, this form must be submitted at least 30 days before the start of the assessment year. For new companies, however, have 3 months from the start of their operation to submit it. The minimum amount of the tax estimate should be not less than 85% of the previous year's estimate, or it is the first time based on the company's project profit for the year. Let's start with an overview of tax estimate. Monthly installment begins differently for new and existing companies. For existing companies, installments start from the second month of the assessment period, while for new companies, payments start in the 6th month after operation commence. Every installment is due by 15th of each month. If payments are delayed, a 10% penalty will be applied. Similarly, if the tax estimate is more than 30% below the actual tax payable, an additional 10% penalty will be charged.
Revision of tax estimate. Company can revise their tax estimate once a year using form CP2048, either by the end of the 6th or 9th month of the financial year. If the revision is made in 6 months, the form must be submitted by the end of that month. If the 6th month revision is missed, company can still revise in the 9th month after submitting form CP2048 at that time. This process allowed company to adjust their tax estimate based on actual financial performance, helping to avoid penalty for underpayment or overpayment. The revised estimate will affect the remaining monthly installment to ensure accurate tax payment. Company must submit their annual tax return via Form C, resident, or Form R, non-resident, within 7 months of their financial year end. The return include gross income, deduction, tax relief, incentive, and the final tax payable after installment. Company pay estimate tax in monthly installment. Any remaining tax must be paid by the return deadline. Late submission or payment can result in fine and penalties. The final tax payment must be made when submitting the return to settle all liabilities.
The amendment of tax return is an important part of the tax compliance procedure under the self-assessment system. It allows taxpayers to correct error or omission made in their original tax return filing. The amendment may apply when in the report have incorrect income, inaccurate deduction claim, and missed income or deduction. The process of amending a tax return is identify the error, then company must recalculate tax liability, then prepare amended return. Last but not least is submitted the amended return within prescribed 12 months period. Next, penalty and interest. If an amendment result in additional tax being payable, the company is liable to pay interest on the unpaid tax amount from the original due date until the final payment is made. However, failing to amend a return when necessary can lead to more significant penalty, such as late payment penalties and penalties for underreporting. Last but not least is consequence of not amending is high penalty when the company underreporting tax can be served, especially if the authorities deem the error to be intentional. Next, if company fail to correct errors, it can affect increased audit risk.
For decline, company must file their tax return and make final payment within 7 months of the year financial year end. For penalty, late payment incur a 10% penalty with an additional 5% if unpaid 60 days after the due date. Payment method. Payment can be made with online, the RIBM's e-filing portal, through bank transfer, or at RMBM's office. The system digitalization, including invoicing, simplifies this process. For the audit, post-payment, the RMBM may audit your return. Record keeping is important to avoid further penalty and additional tax liability.